Today we're taking a look at what might be the most over-the-top Raspberry Pi 5 case I've tried out so far. This is the Pironman 5 Pro Max by SunFounder, and at first glance, it looks like it's just a bigger version of the Pironman 5 Max case that I reviewed last year. You've still got a very similar aluminium shell with acrylic panels, dual NVMe support, a tower cooler and RGB fans, and the same general layout. But the big changes are around standalone usability. We now get a 4.3-inch touchscreen, dual speakers, a USB microphone, and a camera module with a dedicated mount. So this is no longer just a Pi in a nice case. It's more like a self-contained mini-computer or AI terminal. These features come with an increase in price though, pushing this case up to $146. Let's get it assembled and find out if the additional features are worth it. The case comes in a similar kit to the Max. Inside the box you've got the aluminium panels, acrylic side panels, cooling hardware, NVMe and expansion boards, an OLED display and a lot of screws. There's also a touchscreen, a camera module, 2 speakers and a USB microphone. So there are a few more components to install compared to the Max. Assembly is very similar overall, and is again done by following a large picture guided instruction sheet, and all of the screws are well labelled, so it's really easy to do. They even include a small screwdriver. Like with the Max, you start by installing the standoffs in one half of the case. Then connect some expansion boards to your Raspberry Pi 5 and screw that into the case too. Next up you install some cables and the speakers. Then comes the tower cooler. You install the thermal pads onto the CPU and the surrounding heat producing components. Then mount the cooler using the spring-loaded push pins. After that you install the dual NVMe adapter and your SSDs or your SSD and AI accelerator, like the Halo 8L. If you're using your NVMe drive as a boot drive, remember to flash your OS before installing it. The RGB display and GPIO adapter plugs into the Pi's GPIO pins. Next, 2 fans go onto the back panel with some screws. And then the 2 speakers stick on underneath them. The camera cable is the same design as it is in the Max case, but this time they include the camera and an adjustable mount. The OLED stats display on the front is also the same. With those all installed, we can start closing up the case, firstly by screwing the 2 aluminium case halves together. The acrylic front panel gets a power switch installed on it and then can be screwed into place too. Then the display gets mounted onto the acrylic side panel and it plugs into the Pi, and we can then close the case up. To finish it off, there are some rubber feet on the bottom of the case, the USB microphone plugs into one of the USB 2 ports on the back, and the camera gets mounted onto the top of the case. And that's the case assembly complete. All up, this took me around 45 minutes to assemble, and that's while recording too. So like with other SunFounder cases that I've put together, this one's fairly easy and has a well-guided process. They also give you some extra screws and hardware in case you lose or break any of them. Next we need to boot it up and install the software to use some of the included accessories. I've pre-installed Raspberry Pi OS onto the NVMe drive, so we just need to plug in some cables for the power supply, network and monitor, and then it's ready to go. I plugged it into my monitor because I wasn't sure if the display would work straight away, but it did recognize it and it even set it as the default display. So technically you could set this all up with just the power cable being plugged into it. To use the OLED display and internal RGB lighting, we need to install some software. This is easy to do with a single line command to run in the terminal, and that requires a reboot at the end. After the reboot, the case comes to life. The most noticeable addition is definitely the touchscreen. Instead of just showing simple stats like the OLED display, this gives you a full interface which you can use to display system info, run dashboards, or build custom interfaces for. Their Pironman dashboard that's installed as part of the script includes a nice monitoring page, which can be displayed on your main monitor or full screen on the case's display. This display makes the setup far more usable as a standalone device, rather than something you need to add an external monitor to or need to SSH into. It's also still got the OLED display on the front, which can be set up to display a couple of different metrics or to cycle through them. The integrated RGB lighting is also controllable with a number of options. It's really cool that they've synced the fans up with the LEDs at the top, so they're all working together. Next up is the audio. The built-in speakers are okay for their size. I get why they've gone with two, so that stereo audio plays back correctly, but with the space limitations, they would have gotten much better audio quality out of a single larger speaker. That said, they're okay for system sounds, basic voice outputs, or light media playback. You're not going to want to watch a movie on here, but that's not really what it's made for anyway. The microphone works straight out of the box and is detected as a USB device. This is useful for voice assistants like the one I built a few months ago.
Humans possess unique creativity and emotional intelligence that machines cannot replicate.
Lastly, let's look at the camera. It's easy to position to focus on your target. This addition fits in with the theme of the other inclusions, allowing face tracking, object detection, or general vision-based AI projects. And you can use the accelerator in the second M.2 slot to help out with these. So having tried both the Pironman 5 Max and Pironman 5 Pro Max, I'd say that the Max is designed to be a high-end Pi case, which is great for servers, NAS builds, or desktops, while the Pro Max is better suited for AI applications, dashboards, and smart systems, or projects requiring human interaction with the device. It basically turns your Pi into something closer to a smart assistant, kiosk, or edge AI workstation. It's an interesting addition to the Pironman lineup. I don't think it replaces the Max, but rather changes its purpose. I do wish they got a bit more creative with the naming scheme though. We've got the Pironman 5, Pironman 5 Max, and now the Pironman 5 Pro Max, which I think serve different functions, rather than just be better versions than their predecessor as the name suggests. As with the other cases in this line though, it's no longer just a small computer you hide away. It's something you actually want to look at and interact with directly. The only thing I don't really like is the cable management to the camera. It looks a little messy and a bit like an afterthought. They could rather have fed the ribbon cable up to the camera internally, with just a short exposed section underneath the camera. Let me know what you think of the Pironman 5 Pro Max case, and whether this is something you'd actually use, or is it a bit overkill? At $146, it is quite an expensive case for a Raspberry Pi, but when you consider that this case turns the Pi into a full standalone workstation that includes quite literally almost every accessory you might need to add on, it's not terrible value. Especially given that it's assembled into a really good looking package. I'll leave links to both versions in the description if you'd like to check them out. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, consider subscribing. I've got a lot more Pi and Home Lab content coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.